Hey guys, it's Virtual Nothing. We're gonna go ahead and do our day 3. So hopefully you have your guided notes already. If not, hit pause and we'll get that going. So we're gonna start off with some vocabulary. We have what's called a local min and a local max. Sometimes they're called relative. It's the same thing. So remember when we had a parabola that was going up? We called this, ladies and gents, our min. Well, with our polynomial graphs, sometimes we're gonna have a min, but we could also have multiple ins. Remember we talked about yesterday we could have W graphs. That was a horrible W graph. That was also equally as bad. There we go. So here we have multiple mins. So in this case, when we have multiple mins, we're gonna call them local mins because they're just a min for a time period. So it's a minimum over a select interval. And our interval is the graph that we're looking at. So then the max would be the same sort of idea. The max is going to be a max over a select interval. So if we go ahead and we look, ladies and gents, at our diagram right here, this is obviously going to be our local max. And the reason why it's not the absolute max is this is going on forever, it's going up. So it's going to go keep on going that way forever. So it doesn't make sense it's the absolute max. And the same thing with our min. So this would be a local min right here. So our local min, because we have an arrow down here that is going down forever, we're going to go ahead and say, all right, that is a min. Helps if I spell the actual word min. And that's going to go down forever. Alrighty, so the next thing that we need to know with our local minimums and maxes, because this, ladies and gents, we're going to go ahead and use our min and max, is the idea of increasing or decreasing. So the big thing that you got to remember for this is you're going to go ahead and read from left to right. So we're going to read a graph going from left to right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start off here. You can see my finger right here. As we're going and we're going along, what is your finger doing? Is your finger going up or is it going down? So we can obviously see here my finger is going up, then it's going down for a little bit, and then back up. So when it's going up, we're going to call that increasing. And when it's going down, we're going to go ahead and call that decreasing. So, ladies and gents, increasing, moving up, and decreasing is obviously going to be moving down. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to use, again, the same idea that we did yesterday with our x's and our x values. So let's go ahead and take a look. So once again, this is going up, so this would be increasing. And then I would switch to decreasing, and then going back to increasing. Cool with that? Alrighty, and just a good review, because it is nice to review, is positive and negative. So positive is going to be above your x-axis, and negative is going to be low. So for anybody that was gone yesterday, this is exactly what we talked about yesterday. So for this one, we would say it's positive here. Notice we have it above our x-axis, and then right over here. So that's all when it's positive, and then obviously down here we would call that negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple examples where we're going to look at these positive or negative things. Cool? So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, number one. So, in our first one is talking about increasing and decreasing. So what I want you to remember is that these are the x values that we're going to be looking for in our answers. So let's go ahead and label it first. So, ladies and gents, when it's going down, so if we look at this here, even though my arrow is pointing up, we read it from left to right. So I'm starting here, and as I go on my graph, my finger is going down. So that's going to be decreasing. So I'll go ahead and do that in pink to say that's my decreasing. Then once I get to this point right here, I'm going to switch, and it's going to start going up. So that's increasing. And then I'm going to switch down to go to decreasing. And then I'm going to switch back up, because I'm going to start going up here to increasing. So, ladies and gents, if you have some colors, this is a great time to use set colors to make your life a little bit easier. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, obviously if we look at our graph, this just says it's never increasing. That can't be possible. Now, all these other notations look a little funky because these right here are known as, ladies and gents, our interval notation. We haven't seen them for a while. So let's go ahead and look at it back on the graph. So I am decreasing until I get to this part on my x-axis, which is -8. Then I'm increasing until I get this part on my x-axis, which is -4. Then I'm decreasing again until I get to 0, and then it goes up forever. So notice we're going to use our x values just like we did yesterday. It's all about the x values. So here I'm going decreasing from basically -infinity. I know that arrow is pointing up, but it's really saying I'm going to the left forever. So that's why I'm going to use -infinity, even though that looks like it's end behavior going up. So -infinity to 8. We did a notation that looks like this, but really it's x is less than -8. But that's this part right here. Then this part right here, the increasing, is in between -8 and -4. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have our decreasing right here, which was in between -4 and 0. And then this is going to be going to positive infinity because it's going to the right. Again, we're doing x value, so even though that arrow's pointing up, you're thinking end behavior. We want to be going this way forever, so that's positive infinity on your x. So really that's going to be x is greater than 0, or we said from 0 to infinity. So how do we write these in our interval notation as a little review? This is going to be from -infinity to -8. This right here is -8 to -4. This is going to be -4 to 0. And then this is 0 to infinity. Now I notice all these, ladies and gentlemen, they look like points, but that's our interval notation. That interval notation looks like points, but it's actually saying the ranges of x's. So let's go ahead and go back over here and see which one of these looks like we have what we're going. So decreasing is -infinity to 8, and then from -4 to 0, and that's exactly what we want. And then right here, it's saying it's increasing from -8 to -4, and that's what we said right there. Let me do that in green. There we go. And then from 0 to positive infinity. So it looks like our answer here is going to be D. So good little review on that bad boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to number 2. On 2, it's going to talk about our maximum and minimum. Notice you see it says maxima and minima. That's just the plural version of maximums and minimums. So, ladies and gentlemen, the key part of this that I want to focus on is these points. So this right here is -4, 2, and clearly that's a min. This right here is going to be 4, -1, and clearly that is a min. And then we have this point over here on the top. Clearly this is a max at 0, 15. So that's one of the key parts, is to be able to say, hey, I got my maxes and I got my mins. So I'll highlight those right there so we have them. Now, look at our directions. Our directions say what values. So this is when it's tricky, and that's why I wanted to go over this one specifically, is you can look at these and you're like, all right, where are my points? I don't see points right here. And the reason why it doesn't say points right there is because of this word values. Values, just like we did in our parabola units, means our y values. And it helps if I do my number right. Let's change that to 10, sorry. I just noticed that, so let's change that max to 0, 10, not 0, 15. Don't know where the 15 came from. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all these y values, so my minimums are gonna be 2 and -1. We can see that right there at 2 and -1. And then I'm gonna take my max y value, which we can see right there is 10 and 10. So that's why that one was tricky. Alrighty, so before we were asking you guys to go ahead and bust out your calculator, so this is the time. My calculator says my batteries are low. But now this is where we're gonna do our calculators, and we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen, the same thing that we did yesterday. So Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's give it a spin. So the first thing we're going to do is graph this. So with your calculator, okay, you want to graph. Now, a little bit of reminder, see where it says the alpha button? I'll try to get super close here. Woo, super close, super close. This alpha button, this is the X that we want to be using. This is the Y equals that's going to help us graph and put it in like we did yesterday. And then if we hit graph right there, that's where we're actually going to be graphing stuff. Now, if you see it says table right above it in a different color. So to get that, you would hit second graph, and that's going to go to your tables. I have nothing in there because, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't put it in yet. So grab your calculator. Let's go to town. So one last thing really quickly. See this bottom down here, yours by the decimal? That with the parentheses means negative. That's going to be subtraction. So when this is a negative x to the fourth, we're going to use that button right there. So let's go ahead and plug it in. So negative x to the fourth plus 3x cubed minus x minus 12. Now, because it's an x to the fourth, we have a funky graph that looks like that. It's actually way down here. So let's grab our values and go to town, okay? So the way we're gonna go ahead and find out what our graphs are, I'm gonna hit second table, and we're gonna go ahead and notice that I get, really the only points I can use are x and y, and sometimes this happens, is 0, negative 12, then 1, negative 11, and then 2, negative 6. So 2, negative 6 is really the only point, and then it leaves our graph for a while. And it's at x to the fourth, so it's going to be doing this. But the only one that we get to see on our graph is that little part. And so that's what we're going to deal with. We're going to roll with just that. So that means this right here is a max. So that max, and it says the local max, and so I'm going to go ahead and give the actual point because it doesn't say value. So that's 2, negative 6. Do I have any mins? None on my graph. Now our end behavior, we know that because it's a m, we talked about that yesterday, that both of those are negative infinity, and we can see that on our graph too. So it's increasing. All I can see is it's increasing on my graph to that point. So it's increasing till 2. Sorry, it should be less than 2. I apologize. And then it starts to decrease on this side. So we're going to say x is greater than 2. Then we're going to say positive. It is never positive. So I'm going to say NA for doesn't apply because it's never above the x-axis. And then negative, ladies and gents, it is always. So we're going to say all real numbers. So we picked that one so we could look at some basics of increasing, decreasing. I know it's a little funky off our graph, but just so we get to the idea that it's going up, that's increasing, going down, decreasing. It's never up here, so that's why it's never positive, and it's always down here, so that's why it's always negative. Cool? Alrighty, so ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's go ahead and pull out those calculators and do the next one here. This one's a little bit better. We are going to be able to see a lot more. So notice we have an x to the fifth, a little funky. Okay, so remember when we put that in, make sure you hit that caret button right there to get that. So x to the fifth. Some of you guys are ahead of the game, which is awesome. If we need to hit pause, just let Miss Bass know and she'll go ahead and hit pause for us. So this is my graph, and you can see it kind of goes off of our screen, but we're going to use the best that we can to make this happen. Okay? So my points, just so we're all on the same page, if I do my x and y table just like we see it on the calculator, it's negative 3 and then negative 85. And then we're going to have negative 2, 5, negative 1, negative 4. Then we're going to have, sorry, I have my numbers backwards. I forgot a 20 in there. There we go. So the only ones that I'm really going to be able to use are these ones right here. So let's plot those really quickly. So -1, 5, 0, -4, and 1, -1. So really my graph goes like this. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot more stuff going on this bad boy. But what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're just gonna estimate, just like we talked about yesterday. Just estimate. Don't worry about the exact values. We're gonna talk about that later. So today we're just gonna estimate. So local max is gonna be this one right here. And I'm gonna speculate that if I look at that, that's gonna go ahead and be somewhere around 2, 8. So I'm gonna say my local max is 2, 8. Now my local min I actually know, which is nice, that's 0, -4. So let's do our end behavior. So my left arrow is going down, so -infinity. My right arrow is going up, and that's gonna be +infinity, so we're good there. Now increasing. So let's go and do increasing. So clearly I'm going up, going up, going up, going up, until we get to about 2. Sorry, that should be -2. Thank you for fixing that. So it's gonna be x is less than -2. And then it's also increasing from 0 up to wherever here. So we're gonna say x is greater than 0. Decreasing is gonna be this in-between part right here. So that decreasing number is going to be from -2 to 0. All right, positive. So this is when we're going to use our zeros again. So if we look here, we're going to use our zeros and use another estimation. So this looks like -2.5. This looks to be about 1, and we'll call that about 1.5. So it's above, remember we want above the x-axis, when it's going to be from -2.5 to -1. And then again, when x is greater than 1.5. And then it's negative, it's gonna be negative right here from -1 to 1.5. Alrighty, so ladies and gents, that's our notes. It's up on the website if you need to take a look at this video again. The guided notes are up on the website too if you wanna take a look at those. Home fun answers are on there. This video took about 20 minutes, so I think that you're gonna have a good chunk of the period. Let's bust out those calculators, let's work together, and let's get this job done. Have a great day, guys. Thanks.